Welcome to the final senior reading of the class of 2025. We are so glad to have you all present here. We are going to have a fabulous slate of readers. You'll hear from the stunning and fantastic Taylor Lampron, Delia McCann, James Pickering, and Emily May Rotson. We're so glad that you get to join us for this evening. Before we get started, it's important that you know who I am. My name is Monica Prince. I'm the performance coach for all of the seniors, and I teach activists and performance writing in the Department of Creative Writing and English. I'm so glad you're all here. We have a couple of housekeeping things. First and foremost, please silence your cell phones, watches, tablets, all the other things that light up and make noise, so that they don't distract you during the performance, because you'll miss the good stuff. All right. Second, we want to thank the Art Gallery and its director and its fabulous interns for allowing us to do this fantastic event here. We're so honored to be surrounded by this beautiful work from the graphic designs and art student majors. So check out the cool stuff. These are all student works if you want to check them out after the end of the reading. Additionally, we're grateful to IT and event management for allowing us to have this reading and making sure that we were scheduled here, and our fabulous videographer back in the room who's going to record it for posterity. So we're really glad that all those things are here. Let me think. This is an interactive reading. It's very important that you engage. If you like something, what do we do, Slam Kids? Excellent. You're also welcome to jingle your keys if you feel it. If you really like something, please laugh, especially if it's funny. There's a couple funny things in there, so make sure you laugh. It's completely safe. If you feel some other feelings, like deep, emotional, sad feelings, feel free to weep openly. Safe space. And all those other things. If you like it, give them some love. The more energy you give to our readers, the more they'll give back to you. General content warnings that some of these pieces deal with difficult subjects as related to politics, self-harm, etc. So please just be aware of that. If you need to take a second between readers, that's totally fine. There's plenty of space for you to take a deep breath. Are you ready? Yeah. Our final thank yous to the Writers Institute and their literary arts interns who made those beautiful bookmarks. So we hope you enjoy them, because everybody needs a bookmarks. So many bookmarks. I need a lot more bookmarks. So we hope you'll grab them on your way out. Any questions? You feeling good? Yeah. Amazing. Up first, we have our stunning and fantastic Professor Sirasena to introduce our first reader.
It is my pleasure to introduce Taylor Lampron tonight. Taylor started at the Writers Institute, writing mostly comedy stories that involved real people living their lives. But, and these are her words, in my junior year, I wrote a story about an insomniac woman who led a seemingly average life during the day, but started seeing a sleep doctor, leading her to have bizarre dreams where she was in a fantasy world, meeting fantasy characters. I thought it was fun to combine non-fantasy with fantasy, so I've gotten more involved with fantasy as my days in the Writers Institute have progressed, but comedy has always and always will be my first love. Professor Monica Prince writes this about Taylor. Taylor Lampron surprised me in my introduction to poetry course her sophomore year, writing poems tackling disability, identity, and the real magic we encounter in our world. Though Taylor primarily identifies as a prose writer, specifically fiction, her entire oeuvre resists categorization or boundaries. This rule-breaking spills into her theatrical performances, demonstrating how she views literature as an embodied practice. Whether on the stage or on the page, Taylor is only bound for astonishing heights. I hope we're all able to rise with her. Join me in welcoming Taylor.
Thank you so much for that intro. That was really nice. Yeah, my name is Taylor Lampron, and I have two pieces for you tonight that I bedazzled very much. I like to think of these decorations, these beautiful decorations, as like a compensation for all the fart, poop, and booger jokes I'm going to be making tonight. Yeah. This first piece is an excerpt from a short story that I wrote called Sprite Night. The frosted glass doors to the palace slowly creaked open Out stepped Moon, the hostess of Sprite Night. She sported the same glamorous look she sported every year. Her hair, the color of Swiss cheese, hung loosely below her shoulders. She wore a red satin dress that trailed behind her. Her smile was warm and friendly. "Good evening, ladies. Star and Sparkles, right?" "That's us," Sparkles beamed. Moon's smile suddenly disappeared. "Sparkles, honey, you've got a little something stuck between your two front teeth, like spinach or something." Star tried not to giggle as Sparkles' face turned from pride to horror. I'll take care of it in the bathroom," Sparkles stammered. She grabbed Star's hand, and they casually decided to walk into the palace instead of flying in. Only that wasn't the best idea, because Sparkles tripped over Moon's satin red dress that trailed behind her. They decided to fly the rest of the way to the bathroom. "Why didn't you tell me I had spinach stuck between my teeth? That was mortifying," Sparkles said as she stared into the mirror, working to pick the leafy green out of her teeth. "Sorry, I didn't notice before, but hey, at least Moon noticed it before anyone else did," Star said. "And then I tripped over her dress." "Relax, we just got here," Star assured her. "It'll be fine, it'll be fine." "You might have spoken too soon," Sparkles said, nodding her head toward the doorway of the bathroom, where two other fairies had just entered, Bloom and Blossom. "Don't be fooled by their innocent floral names. They were two of the meanest fairies in Enchantropolis." They gave Star and Sparkles a glance, then snickered to each other. They reached into their purses, each put out a shitload of makeup, and scattered it all over the sink countertop. "Oh, hey Star, hey Sparkles, do you want to borrow some of our makeup? It looks like you could use some," Bloom taunted. She flipped a lock of wavy chestnut hair behind her shoulder and put her hands on her hips, her French-tipped nails pressing into the sparkling crimson velvet of her dress. "We're wearing makeup, see?" Star batted her rhinestone-covered lashes. "We put it on at home before we got here, which you should have done. Why would you bring it here? Look how cluttered you made the countertop." Bloom shrugged. Blossom gave Star a look and wrinkled her nose as if she just smelled fermented horse shit. "That's what you're wearing tonight? It looks like you skinned it from a chicken." She studied herself in the mirror for a moment before running her fingers through her strawberry blonde hair, then smoothed out her sparkly silver dress. Star just shook her head, but Sparkles stepped in. "That's a hypocritical thing of you to say, considering the fact that your dress is basically the color of snot." "Oh, you mean like the snot dripping out of your nose right now?" Bloom quipped. Sparkles quickly glanced in the mirror, but found no mucus dripping from her nose. Bloom and Blossom began to laugh maniacally, and Sparkles' face turned so red, it was nearly purple. "Just ignore them," Star whispered. "Is the spinach out of your teeth?" "Ew, you have spinach in your teeth? You eat spinach? Everyone knows kale is the superfood that is in right now." Blossom sniffed. "Does it matter? They're both leafy vegetables that turn your shit green. And yes, I had spinach in my teeth earlier, but it's gone now." Sparkles then turned to Star. "Did you really have to say that?" "Sorry, I wasn't expecting them to hear me." Sparkles sighed. "Whatever, I'm gonna go get drunk." With that, she left the bathroom. Star gave Bloom and Blossom a look, then left the bathroom as well. The party was jam-packed with fairies, pixies, elves, all kinds of sprites dancing to fast-paced, enchanted tunes, downing shots of sparkling shimmer gin, juggling cups of pixie punch in one hand, and whimsical pastries in the other, mingling with one another. Like the fairies, the pixies and elves resided in houses in Enchantropolis. Some were roommates, some had families, some lived on their own. They all lived similar lives in and out of their houses, attending parties, going shopping, eating at restaurants, going to work. Sparkles stayed close to the drinks table, but Star decided to go off and meet some other sprites. It was a traditional party, so why shouldn't they stay true to their traditional behaviors? Bloom and Blossom finally left the bathroom after finishing up their makeup. They scanned the lively room around them, on a power trip. "Where did those little shits go?" Blossom asked. Bloom shrugged. "Lucky escape, I guess. This room is packed. We'll never be able to find them. I guess we'll find someone else's night to ruin." They fluttered off into the crowd. Thank you. This next piece is an excerpt from a short story I wrote called Princess Charming. Empress Anastasia strutted up to us. She was wearing a silk royal blue dress with shiny, poofy shoulders and a long, flowing skirt that slithered on the floor behind her as she walked. The dress was covered in fine glitter. Her dress was a lot better than mine, that was for sure. "Hello, Duchess Jewel. It's lovely to see you again," Empress Anastasia greeted my mother. They exchanged a cheek-to-cheek kiss. Empress Anastasia looked over at me and her smile faded a little. "Hello, Esmeralda. That's quite the dress you're wearing." I couldn't be insulted because I hated the dress as well. "Thank you," I said. My mother smiled. "It was the dress I wore during the flower shower when I met my husband. I'm hoping Esmeralda will find her Prince Charming tonight." I cleared my throat loudly. Some phlegm came up, and I was tempted to spit it out right there on the floor. But I knew that would land me in a heap of trouble, so I didn't. "Oh, you brought the strawberry shortcake. I love your strawberry shortcake." Empress Anastasia grabbed it from my hands and handed it off to a princess standing a few feet from her, who rushed it into another room. "I also brought deviled eggs," my mother chirped, peeling off the plastic wrap. "I made them last night, right at the stroke of midnight, just like you recommended." Empress Anastasia smiled. "Thank you, Duchess Jewel." She leaned forward to examine them. "They look lovely." Then she wrinkled her nose. "But they smell a bit like, well, I don't know if I can say this." She lowered her voice to merely a whisper. "Farts?" I narrowed my eyes. "Of course they do. They're eggs." "Esmeralda!" My mother's voice was sharp. She was staring straight ahead, a slight look of hurt on her face. She cleared her throat. "Very well, Empress Anastasia. I'll put them far, far away, over on the windowsill in the corner, so you won't have to smell them for the rest of the night." She started over to the corner where a windowsill and a large metal trash can with a laced trash bag were. She tossed the plastic wrap in the trash, but instead of placing the dish on the windowsill, she flipped it over and dumped the eggs right into the trash can. "Mom!" I hissed. Although there was no residue left on the plate, she still beat it against the rim of the trash can for dramatic effect. "There!" she said, thrusting the plate into my hands. "Mom, don't you think you might be overreacting? Just a little?" I whispered. "How dare that woman insult my food!" my mother huffed. Then she spotted Duchess Indigo, who was standing in another corner. They exchanged waves, and my mother hustled over to her. I was left standing in the corner. My toes twitched, my fingers itched. I couldn't believe my mother would waste an entire plate of perfectly good food. The more the thought racked my brain, the more I couldn't stand it. I peered into the trash. It was empty, except for a pile of sad, dead-looking egg halves and yellow mush lying at the bottom of the laced bag. I gritted my teeth. I quickly looked around. Everyone was focusing on each other, chatting away, coming in and out of rooms, focusing on everything, anything, but me. I supposed I could reach into the trash can and sneak one deviled egg. I'd been excited, yearning for them since this morning, and it wasn't like anyone else was going to eat them. Nobody even knew they were there. And my mother had just pitched them into the trash about 2 minutes ago, so with nothing else in there, so they weren't exactly garbage, right? I placed the empty plate on the windowsill, then leaned over the rim of the trash can and reached my arm down, my fingers groping for a decent deviled egg that had a perfect amount of filling that hadn't spilled out, filling that hadn't been combined with filling from another egg. I hoisted myself up to get a bit more leverage and support, but that was when I fell head first, face forward, plummeting towards the white and yellow puree. "Ah!" I yelled. The surrounding sounds of the party were mostly muffled by the trash bag, but I could still make out the sound of my mother's shriek, "Esmeralda!" I felt someone grab my legs and pull. I was yanked out of the trash can, taking it down with me with a clang. One single egg made its way out with me, lying face down on the floor, but the rest stayed put in the bottom of the bag. The person who pulled me out was kneeling on the floor next to me. I assumed the person who grabbed me and was kneeling next to me was my mother. I pulled my hair away from my face. "Mom, I'm so sorry," I began, turning toward them. But it wasn't my mother. It was the most beautiful woman I have ever seen in my entire life. "Are you okay?" she asked. "Am I not what?" I could barely speak. I was shaking from embarrassment and awe. I always thought the phrase love at first sight was just something people threw around, and I always thought it was a bunch of malarkey. But now, I was starting to believe it was true. Thank you so much.
It is my pleasure to introduce Delia McCann. Delia, a double major in publishing and editing and creative writing, was born and raised in Manchester, New Jersey, and she is author of a poetry chapbook with a truly outstanding title, Jacquerie of Smothered Women. I love it, just amazing. This is her advice for younger students. Figure out your love for creative writing before you invest 2 semesters worth of borrowed money on a soul-crushing business management major you never really wanted in the first place. Point is, go into college as undeclared, please, for the love of sanity and future financial security, and get your requirements out of the way while you figure out what you really want to do. As you can see, and as I noticed in Intro to Fiction, Delia has a wonderfully dry sense of humor that serves her work well. She was a pleasure to have in class. Dr. Randy Robertson writes the following: adjectives, as every writer knows, rank among the most challenging parts of speech to get right, but happily Delia is 3 of my favorite adjectives: intelligent, resilient, and singular. Her keen intellect, her courage, and her independence of mind strike all who come into contact with her. She has flourished at Susquehanna, and I can't wait to see what she does next. Please join me in welcoming Delia McCann to the stage.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I guess I'm blushing. Alrighty, so I'm going to be reading 3 different pieces. I'm going to be reading 2 poems and some excerpts from my creative nonfiction piece from Intro to Nonfiction. But we're going to start with a poem called Rotten Are the Petals Fallen from the Stem. Quote, "Forlorn are the women of bare feet, barbarous, unholy infidels, sacrilegious creatures that break away from civilized theology. Sinner women, cower between the legs of your forbidden fruit and grovel before him." End quote. Oh, munch magnolias with me, my love, as we roll in wild fireweed fields, bare-skinned and breathless. The fall, our excommunication from humanity, was truly our inadvertent liberation. So we'll slip beneath the fabric, interweave our sacrilegious fingers. Trace the crevices of my throat, O lover, let's make love amongst the flowers, stare into their divine prying eyes in defiance as you suckle the sweetness from my lips. Our defiance is the root of God's civil disorder, but we'll continue sneaking sapphic kisses beneath the fray. Our eyes may crinkle in amusement as we know the heart of your animus lies in cultural covetousness. What other reason is there to hate upon unchained, unrestrained, untethered women loving one another? But despite eons of persecution and ostracization, we've decided to extend the olive branch. We humbly ask you to set aside your petty animosity. Our disobedience equals contempt. The notion is laughable. Do not mistake us for yourselves, almighty beings, but instead dine with us on pomegranate blossoms in good faith. Let the bitter juices violate your tongues, our sweetness rot the esophagi, and risk again, we dare, to martyr our free love. All right, this next one is excerpts from annotated notes on being a woman in media and literature. 1. Am I not your glamorous being? Is my value no longer measured in centimeters by bust, waist, and hips? Hypersexualized and oversimplified into a nice, neat little package, categorized to fit in a supportive, loving, jealousy-stricken disguise, chastised for stepping out of line. Compartmentalize my complexities into locked filing cabinets and display the small scraps of stereotypical material that deems my value to society, my value to you. as I am a woman within fiction, within literature, and thus my portrayal shall be fictionalized as well. 2. As young as the age of 5, I'd worn padded bralette tops paired with skin-tight bikini panties. Imagine a child running around on a perverted beach in nothing but undergarments 13 years her senior. When did she have to learn to look out for the Humberts of the world? When had it become so instinctual? Bending down to inspect seashells, she watches her back by peering between her legs, as if she were a semi-suspicious yet unsuspecting Lolita Hayes. If she woke up to be Lolita, Charlotte, or even Rita Wingate, would she not just smile and prepare his morning coffee? 3. To a child, her father, who she may perceive as God, will take her hand and guide her through 1/4 of life. He will spend fortnights sculpting the important parts of her, smoothing out his perceived imperfections with nothing but his own sweat and a calloused thumb, paying obscene attention to detail with the mindset of a Freudian. He not only possesses her body, but the quill and manuscript of her fate, and writes of her in the highest regard. What a good wife she will make. What beautiful children she'll birth. What a perfect body I have created. She now looks back at her father's sculpture, an unrealistic portrayal of how women are to look, how she was to look, and weeps at her own stone feet in confliction. I wish I could see the things he saw, perceive as he once saw me, think the thoughts he's thought as his and not my own. 4. Help me wash away the depths of my femininity, for I need to be a woman of male ideals. I need to be as they are in Lady Franklin's Lament. Help me to be frail and dependent, immobilize me so I can do nothing but wait and search for a man. Help me to be prim and proper, stuff me into a collection of large gowns, corseted so tightly my ability to think independently, squished beneath the layers of fabric and skin, decorative muscle and porcelain bone, so the ability to think freely is no more than a cruel dream. 5. Help me to hide my wildness, but do not tame me, for I wish to remain the Onondaga Madonna, a woman with the strength of a warrior and a mother, with pagan passions striking careless poses. Douse all that makes me burn and glow, gloss my rebel's lips with silence. Build a cell around my passions, ambitions, my soul, and hide it from my body in some cold, dark, forgettable place. For losing myself is the only way to make me complacent. 6. Both women and men view the world as male, and so if literature is a reflection of our reality, literature is, therefore, male. Quote, women characters have been written to play and replay the same themes, whereas men have been given free rein to be and become what they like, even to fail if they choose, end quote. As I wait in your novel, your play, your memoir, eternally to be saved, constantly dependent, constantly patient, constantly a victim, in the name of love, will you finally grant me a will of my own? 7. It is said that the virgin tempted by earthly delights, man, can quickly become the whore. But if it is a man that tempts himself towards a woman, would he not be worthy of receiving a status-demeaning title equally as damning as whore? Of course not. A man can do no wrong, for one would have to have the ability to take responsibility for their own desires to receive such a cruel punishment. 8. The rotten parts of me wish for retribution. They wish to gather every man who has ever been entranced into action by his own lust, his own anger, his own fictitious emotions, and unleash upon them all they've forced upon us. Those necrotic parts fester with the thought of overthrowing the male hierarchy. I've thought, what do we owe men? Are we compliant with this facade of equality because it shows appreciation to our oppressors for allowing us a little freedom? Why are we still fawning and freezing to survive? However, the moral expectations placed upon me suggest that a theory of equality will ultimately prove easier in the end. 9. Ah, the male voice, almost as piercing as their gaze. Let it lull me in a deep haze, so I may resolve your troubles as I drown beneath them. Whisper your woes, your struggles, so that I may tailor the solutions of my own to helping you. I serve to soothe, a buffer for you to lean on, a hint or tool within a hidden object's game to help further your journey. Do not feel guilty for disposing of me once you've gotten through the puzzle. Oh, why do I delude myself into thinking you've ever considered guilt on my behalf? If seldom in literature you lose sleep over my problems, why is it you expect that courtesy of me? 10. The caveat to being a woman trapped in literature is that onlookers only know what is written on the page. Do not look at me. not the way you are now. You don't know me, and I'd rather you not with those eyes. I shall permit you to look at me once you know why I revoke the privilege. For I am not an object, I am not two-dimensional, a crutch for you to lean on only to take credit for walking on your own. Don't let things be one-sided, don't let things be two-dimensional. Nothing is black and white, not the pages of your current novel or the female characters within them. The final piece I'm going to be reading is a poem called Broken Bodies, Pained and Silent. Broken bodies dance on brambles, with feet bare, bruised, and bloodied, with disfigured smiles and upright eyes and pained and silent cries. Broken bodies jut awkward angles from clear-cut, unwanted smut, from the male need to forcibly rut, from torn brassieres and pained and silent strangled tears. Broken bodies, subjects of ablation, with resentment of biased courts of cassation, from forceful subjugation to criminal impregnation, and pain and silent self-abnegation. Broken bodies break their falls from swigs of toxic Adderall against their bruised abdominal wall. With countless bottles of misoprostol and TCAs, they leave in a pained and silent haze. Broken bodies, rigor mortis distorted, with not foreign entities but bulging bellies, with internal fatalities due to voided personalities, and pained and silent abnormalities born from socially constricted technicalities. Yes, we are broken, assaulted with contrition and detrition and superstition, but who is really at fault for the consequences of our sexual assault? And why must it be us? Thank you.
It is my pleasure to introduce James Pickering, who hails from South Seaville, New Jersey. To New Jersey night, like the dual representation. James is a multifaceted fellow, a creative writing major who has 2 minors in religious studies and music performance. He has excellent advice about finding your artistic path. Do not be ashamed to write what you want to write. I spent a long time trying to write literary fantasy rather than accepting that I'm not a literary writer at heart. I write pulp fantasy. I've always wanted to write pulp fantasy. And one of the hardest things to do is to accept your own identity as a writer. Your goal isn't to write a great story, it's to write your story. And if you write your story unapologetically, it will be great. Very wise words. I really enjoyed having James in class way back in Introduction to Fiction. It was great to see how far he's come. Dr. Catherine Dent says, I first met James Pickering on Short Story Island, and now we've made our way to Advanced Fiction Novel Workshop, where James's character, Solomon White, a Vegas living in Philadelphia, is getting to stretch his legs. And James is deeply influenced by his wide reading of horror and fantasy, from Edgar Allan Poe and H.P. Lovecraft to Jim Butcher and Andrzej Sapkowski. I'm deeply impressed by James's ability to combine voice, paranormal horror, and humor. I can't wait to see where his fiction lands. Please join me in welcoming James Pickering to the stage.
First of all, thank you so much for the introduction. So quick little roadmap here. I have 5 pieces for you all tonight. We're going to start with 2 poems, a piece of flash fiction in between, and then 2 more poems to round it out. I'm going to give a quick little spiel about each of them beforehand. So yeah, let's get right into it. The first poem I have for you guys tonight is called Galatea Without. It is a persona poem that I wrote sophomore year here, taking on the persona of Galatea, the statue brought to life by the goddess Venus for Pygmalion. What? Take 2. What reason is love for birth? My Pygmalion, gone. Of what value am I who wanders in search of another love to give my meaning? This automaton, given life by another's love, given form so that I would be your object of desire. I was made for you, Pygmalion. You gave me shape, you gave me purpose, and it was your love and adoration that gave me joy. And now you've gone where I cannot follow until the gods allow me. This thing you carved from your ivory still walks, knowing that I am not truly my own. I am yours, Pygmalion, even when you cannot claim me, even when I wish I were not, I am yours until this accursed form crumbles. Next up is a poem I wrote probably by freshman year here, if I'm being honest. And it's been a staple of every collection I've had to put together since. It's called Atlas Beneath the Sky. I move the muscles that move me. I strain the muscles that make me smile. I shove nourishment into this ravenous heart, but each day it withers and starves. Yet I live. Fleeting moments, flickering flames bring warmth to my memories. Tiny bright roses peek through permafrost. A moonbeam's silver gleam pierces dark forest canopy. Like Atlas, I hold a remembered sky upon my shoulders. If I crumble, I am crushed. And yet the stars, my memories, I hold aloft, separated by dark infinity, with their soft and silver star fire inspire me to continue. I have made them, and if such lovely works can be made by this humble fool, then surely it is a life of value. Next up is a piece of flash fiction that I wrote, I want to say in February. Mild trigger warnings for suicide and stillbirth. I wrote it in response to a writing prompt that I found on Reddit of all places that went basically to the effect of 10 years ago, there was not a single child born, and there has not been a child born since. So, oh, also, this one's currently untitled. If anybody has any ideas, please tell me. Nobody's seen a baby in a decade. I should have. My wife was supposed to give birth to a healthy baby girl. What came out was a corpse. We buried our daughter days later. I buried my wife a week after that. Come to find out, the same story played out around the world. Every child born that day, and every day since, has been stillborn. I started with the scientific. Pregnancy and birth are anatomical processes, after all. Nothing. I turned then to something more occult. I'm floating. The ground has disappeared into the infinite black. Stars penetrate the tenebrous mass with silver fire. I'm certain I've made a mistake, that my soul will drift apart like golden cirrus clouds come together for a brief moment, only to disperse across the eternal sky when around me flashes of gold flare into the dark ether. When the lights have faded, I can see them, each a man or woman, dim with golden light. Radiant tendrils snake from them down to something I cannot see. I turn, or I try to. I'm tethered to something that prevents me from moving. I struggle against it. I hear it begin to break like cracks inching across window panes. I cannot help you should you break that tie. I stop fighting. What? I cannot help you if you sever your connection to me. Who are you? You might call me God. The Hindus would say I'm something between Atman and Brahman. I am your soul, and the soul of every living thing that would call itself human. I swallow. Do you know what's happened to us? I ask, unsure if I want an answer. I cannot sustain you. Each of you draws from me to sustain yourselves, yet I draw from you as well. I am run dry. The water of life is drank up. How? How can we use up our soul? When you are born, you drink from me. And when you die, you return to me with more water than you drank. When you live, you sip from the cup of life. You see the world and are filled to the brim with dreams, with fantasy, with desires. You take from me the will to struggle for the wants you find in life. And when you die, you return to me with those dreams, renewing the will I gave you. But now I am empty, because so few of you carry the will to fight. I look around me at the dim shapes. So they've forgotten how to struggle. They just accept. Yes and no. What do you mean? They simply surrender. They are given a gift, and they let it sit, unused. To live is to suffer, I believe one of your sages said. I disagree. To live is to struggle. Complacency is the enemy of humanity. To march onward despite life's slings and arrows, that is the nature of humanity. Yet all around you are those who've abandoned it. Whether it is for comfort, apathy, or simply the exhaustion of living, they have abandoned me. Thus, when they return, they come bearing no water, no proof that they lived, and no proof that they ever drank from the well of will. What can I do? Go back. Struggle. Do not give up. Face life on its terms, but do so as yourself. Struggle, suffer, fight, and die. Overflow your cup, and in doing so, overflow the cups of others. My eyes snap open in my study. The smell of old books and mothballs drifts to my nose. I stand slowly, my joints creaking. It was morning when I sat down. Now, moonlight filters through my windows, illuminating the floating dust in the air. I place my hand in the glass and look at the silver moon. Across its surface, a faint wisp of gold dances, so quick I almost miss it. I look at the moon for hours until its gleam is lost to the rising sun. It's time to work. Okay, we are now back in the realm of poetry. I have two more for you guys, the first of which is called The Morning After. I'm not going to tell you which morning after, you'll put that together fast enough. November 6. I wake up and check the polls. My partner wakes up beside me. Did you check? Hooray!
Oh, yeah, it absolutely died.
Cool. I don't need it. I can just go.
No, you need it. Accessibility reasons.
I know, right? I mean, like, I'm gonna have to step away. I'm gonna have to step away from the last one anyway. But like, I know, right? So how's everyone doing? Yeah? I don't think I touched anything.
Okay, we'll see.
Woo!
All right, we'll see.
Please from the beginning.
All right, microphone's doing a Jesus impression. Here we go. Take two. November 6th. I wake up and check the polls. My partner wakes up beside me. Did you check? She asks. I nod. Is it bad? I nod. I've never been so ashamed to be a man as when she told me who gave him the vote. I feel sick.
We're back.
Yeah. I feel sick. More than ever, I'm aware of the privilege between my legs. Do we want to raise children in the greatest country in the world? My partner cries because she doesn't want to live in the greatest country in the world. I can't cry because life goes on and we need to get dressed. I will cry later, though, when I think of the daughters I hope to raise, who will look back on today and know their country chose my privilege over their rights. No, dope. Ask her. I do have. Ouch. I need this. So, hot take, I'm actually going to step away from it from this last one anyway. Yeah. This? Sick.
There you go. Okay, go for it.
Cool. So I have one more for you guys tonight. It is called Let Me Breathe, and it is, I have never written anything like it before or since, and you will see why basically right away. Nice. Sometimes I feel like you want to drag me down underneath the waves, drown me just like you always used to, watch me crash and shout until I break the surface, gasping for air, as storm clouds sing their lullaby of annihilation over battle cries of desperation, hands wrap around my throat, choking the life from me, dragging me down to the abyss, to the abyss, to the abyss, to the abyss. Let me breathe, pounding my heart, burning my soul. Let me breathe, tearing apart, losing control. Let me breathe, hating me, hating you, stuck in the cycle of hating the part of me that's you. It's my hand that pulls me down, it's my hand around my throat. I fight the part of me that's you, but you're still a part of me when I want you apart from me. Let me breathe.
That was really amazing, James. Thank you. Emily May Rotson is a creative writing and theater studies double major from Williamstown, Pennsylvania. She's most proud of her dramaturgical work in Susquehanna's theater department. While she loves to perform, she thinks analyzing and learning from works of theater can help us understand the complexity of human emotion even more. Her work in the theater department influences her writing in so many ways, and she wouldn't be the writer that she is today without theater. Professor Zobel writes of Emily that she is a talented writer and that talent is going to take her places. And this is Professor Zobel speaking. I want to acknowledge that, but I also want to mention how in intermediate fiction, Emily wrote with engaging specificity a story about an artificial intelligence that dreams of being human. In a different story, she wrote with startling detail about a character's violent interactions with a pregnant deer. On the surface, these subject matters diverge, but under the hood, both stories explore the ways that people are isolated and lonely, which was funny to me because in class, as in life, Emily is engaged and committed and vivacious and inviting. In short, she's the kind of person who makes other people feel less alone. Join me in welcoming Emily.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. I'm actually very flattered by that. I have 3 poems for you today. The first is a little different from the other 2, but I wanted to start my section off by merging my 2 majors more than I already have. This is Magnum Opus. Magnum Opus, a definition. One great work, especially the greatest achievement of an artist. 8 a.m. I wake up with a glow that most medical professionals would call a cold sweat. My first thoughts of the day consist of a to-do list that I vaguely remember, a vague scenario where the play I'm working on gets produced, and the beginnings of a panic attack which quickly subsides when I remember the fact that I have shit to do. I stand, stretch, and wonder when my bones will stop aching after I rest them for a full 8 hours, reflection on a night of rehearsals and meetings. I open my email and then close it again. After I see too much of that to-do list I forgot coming back to haunt me. 12 p.m. I haven't eaten, but I did do my makeup and still make it to class on time, what I call a win. I raise my hand to answer a question, but when I am called on, I lose my train of thought, so it comes out in a way that makes me sound like I just came from the bar. But I guess I said something right because my professor nods his head along with me. Another win. I check my phone and realize it's been 332 days since I decided to put myself first, and I am suddenly proud that I even rolled out of bed, proud that I had the guts to step into that classroom door, proud that I am trusted with so much. The biggest win. 8 p.m. All the world's a stage, and I, a simple caffeine-driven college student. I answered emails, I took quizzes, I got a grip on life, and now I can finally have fun. By have fun, I mean go to rehearsal. My mind is gripped like a toddler to the leg of their mother on the first day of kindergarten, and I am taken into the world of a play. Playing pretend is the reason why actors used to go to jail, but now it's why I'm in college. When I am at rehearsal, I am in my element. There's a lot of things I don't know, but one thing that I do know is that I love what I do. I've been performing for as long as I can remember, but directing is the new cocaine that has entered my bloodstream. It's funny, in kindergarten, a boy who I don't care to remember the name of told me I was bossy. But now, that's what I put on my resume. I am kind and compassionate in everything I do, but I know that I know what I'm doing. And that, my friends, is true power. 12 a.m. I call my dad on my walk back to my dorm. I'm vaguely reminded of how terrible I was as a teenager, so I ask him how his day was. Because he deserves to not hear about me for once. He is the reason I am here. Not just because he started my college fund when I was in diapers, but because he is the one who told me I could be whatever I wanted to be. I tell him I love him. My last thoughts of the day consist of past due assignments, notes that I'm realizing I should have given, a to-do list that is just as long as it was when I woke up. But through it all, I am able to have my melatonin-induced slumber because I remember for the first time all day that I am loved. Magnum opus, my definition. Something that I think is unattainable. Something that I think is just a way for us to put our hearts and soul into everything we do in hopes that it will be our greatest. Something that I think I'll strive for anyway. Something that comes from within. My second piece is titled, Maybe Love is a Single Woman. Maybe I was proud of who I was until I fell in love. You know, it's so funny how one sideways smile you hate to look at photos of, how one face full of freckles you say is sun damage, how one ugly laugh you try to hide in public can become the reason I put my seatbelt on again. It's not that I had an urge to fly through the windshield, but maybe I'll stay behind the driver's seat for a little while longer. Maybe. I say maybe because maybe I was held too hard as a baby and all the dreams leaked out of my brain and slithered down my brainstem like a fire pole until they thought my tongue was a red carpet for them to enter a world where everything would inherently try to kill them. Maybe my head was in the clouds since the day I learned that I could fly. The day I learned I could sing was the day that I learned little girls grow feathers when cherished. And if I thought about it enough and worked hard enough, maybe I'd reach the stars. And then maybe one day I made the mistake of looking down, and I brought myself back to earth. I threw it all away so that I wasn't taller than the blonde boy who played basketball at recess. Because if I was too complex, if I was more than he could possibly understand, if I couldn't fit myself into what he thought a girl was supposed to be, then I'd always fly alone. Maybe it took years for me to learn to fly again. It's like riding a bike, they say, but you never forget how to fall. Until I didn't fall anymore. Maybe one day I soared and I was beautiful again. but I can still feel myself drift when a storm comes in. Maybe I wonder if love can find a woman without her wings clipped. I always thought they were too vulgar, and each time there's been a he, I am left with a little less hope because my wings were in the way of where he tried to hold me. Maybe. Maybe love is something I can have without someone to give it to. Because if I wasn't held so hard as a baby and the dreams didn't get out, I never would have seen the clouds, the sky, the stars. This is why I say maybe. Because as much as I find that you aren't bad to look at, as much as I can't stop thinking about when I'll see you next, as much as I want nothing more than to be yours, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Because there's something in the back of my mind, a voice that I didn't recognize but has morphed into my own, that curses the day I fell from grace. But I will wear my seatbelt anyway. And while I may be driving a car, which by no means will go airborne, I know pilots have hope when they fly, and I think maybe I will too. My third and final poem to round us out for the evening is one I wrote yesterday. This new shit. This is Failure and Love, Mind and Body. Love the fingers that trace the keys of a piano, too young to know that practicing every day is a necessity. You will sit at the bench and plunk each key, a thunderous failure of crescendo into decrescendo. You are quietly failing, not confident enough for your failure to sound like a symphony. Love the legs that carried you to first base. Run faster, pump blood into your muscles, dodge the glove, all for nothing. You will whimper your way back to the bench. You will never be fast enough to make it on base. Instead, you will sit in the outfield and pick dandelions. The cowlicks of fuzz that float away in the May breeze contain your wishes that become fantasies, as you realize all you've wished for is to be someone you aren't. Love the arms that try to hold a paintbrush steady. You don't understand color theory to this day, but you see Van Gogh and Monet and Corot and realize that they were rejected in their time too. Acrylics, watercolors, and pastel all fail to capture your internal effigy. Love the stomach that growls at times you find inappropriate. Find a way to satiate the hunger that looms over your head like a tornado that sucks your mind in. Modeling is out of the question when you can tell your body houses organs, when you can tell that you are alive. You will pose for pictures and suck it in, but discard them anyway. At least your stomach churning will drown out the silence of lost memories. Love the toes that will try to balance a life of uncertainty, attached to two left feet and a head full of brains. Unsteady, you will dance anyway. Waking your parents, you will crash into furniture. Mortified, you cringe at the idea of dancing for anyone but yourself. You aren't graceful, and when you try ballet, you know that the life of a ballerina will never be yours. Love the voice that is too boisterous to be tamed inside the confines of sheet music. You sing in your car like a prisoner in solitary confinement. Auditions will tell you exactly what you are thinking, that you aren't good enough. Always the ensemble, never the lead. Hatred clouds the proscenium of the stage. You will force yourself to just talk when your soul wants to sing. But however hard it may be, love the mind that tells you you aren't enough. Because one day, when you are least expecting it, you will find it blossomed. And those dandelion dreams, those symphonies, those performances, those colors, those ballerina twirls, those photographs will not have been in vain. They say the body reflects the mind, and you will finally find, after all this time, that all you had to do is love.